Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Sunday Podcast, presented by sportsshoes.com. I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
This podcast is all about elite distance running in the UK.
We're here to give you all the latest news updates around the sport,
as well as weekly interviews with athletes and coaches.
Stay up to date by following us on Instagram and X at Sunday Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel too, where we post athlete workout videos, shoe reviews and more.
Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Okay, welcome back to another episode. Not loads to chat about, is there, Matt, today before we get into the main episode, but a few little things with Mansfield, obviously, next weekend. And as we highlighted a couple of weeks ago, I think, with the distances now for Liverpool, it's a big showdown.
Mansfield on the horizon, mate. Yeah, I think we were just browsing the entries. Hard to tell because as we figured out, I think each club just enters a couple teams, and it's like everyone who's ever done cross country for the club seemed to be entered. So, but I think big underdogs this weekend. I'm not sure what their third and fourth run is going to be like, but if Derby AC have a team with Ben Connor and Hugo Milner, I think they are going to absolutely fly around, and they could definitely get a medal because those two are on the cross. We know Milner is kind of head and shoulders above everyone else in kind of current years. Last 12 months or so, and I think Ben Connor is like hot on his heels as well. So even though you can bring in the kind of mid-distance athletes and you bring in some solid cross runners, those guys I think will be looking to get fastest leg again with Leeds, people like that, and Emil Caress, Phil Sessman. They're entered. Are they going to do it? Highly doubt it. Week after Valencia half for Emil. So yeah, you can't tell too much, but yeah, even people like Jack Rowe and stuff are entered as well. Will Barnacle for older shots. So basically, any big name it seems to be entered through their club. So it's hard to kind of get excited and really decide who's going to run well. But I did think, the way Milner and Connor are going, they have done a bit of cross country. They're both going to do the podium in a couple of weeks' time on the 9th of November as well. But I think, like we said, shorter course, I think we can expect to see those two. I'd be surprised if we didn't.
Yeah, I think so, mate. And I don't know why I feel like they will show up. It's a weird one. Like you mentioned Barnacle and Rowe for Aldershot, and of course Sessman and Caress from Leeds. And I don't see them doing Mansfield, but for some reason I've got this feeling that Milner and Connor, particularly Milner, that he will be at Mansfield and he will show up. But again, we have no info on that, so don't quote us. We're just kind of going off hunches and things.
We are indeed. Another team to look out for, Cambridge and Coleridge, of course, winning it last year, defending their title at dust up between the Distance Project and Barnacle. But just quickly, actually, on Cambridge and Coleridge, the new bicarb. Intrigued to see if anyone's tried it. I'm going to hopefully talk to the guys when I see them next about the product, because basically producing a cheaper bicarb, and I think they've literally just called it bicarb, created by some guys within the club, Jack Gray and people like that. So I think they're doing a great job, and I wonder if it's legit and if that's their secret. So yeah, anyway, went off topic a bit, but yeah, very, very hard to tell. Mansfield, Bracknell AC, mate. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts, didn't make the A team. There we go. But it's looking strong though. My brother's doing okay. Halstead, Ricky Harvey, Ben Wills might get a top 20 finish, top 15 maybe.
Yeah, I mean they got a chance without you in there, so. I've retired. You're not in a team.
Oh, true.
Good things for Bracknell, to be fair.
I usually pull an absolute stinker on leg 3 or something, but I'm not a leg 3 runner. You've got to be different gravy to hit leg 3 hard. It's always those guys, isn't it? Those real kind of 10K boys who can thrash around leg 3. So yeah, but on the women's side as well, I think it's worth noting that. If Belgrave are in form, I mean Sarah Aston and of course you've got Kate Axford and stuff as well. Like if they're on it, I think they're going to be very, very tough to beat because thought they were going to go well at road relays. And of course Georgia Bell, by the way, is on the entry lists. I think she might be on her honeymoon or heavy off season, but on the entry list. So I mean, Belgrave actually could have a sickening team. Actually, we did Georgia Bell, Kate Axford, Sarah Aston for three, and then they got a load of other people who could probably sneak that fourth leg. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And of course, is it still 3K for the women? Is that right? Even on the seniors?
yeah,
So yeah, like you're talking over that sort of distance, like some of the athletes in there, like you think Kate Axford, right? It's probably one of her best events. Georgia Bell would be, like you say, absolutely ridiculous um, over that sort of distance. And yeah, mate, it's only three senior women as well in the team, so you wouldn't even need a fourth.
oh shit! Oh my God, they would. I don't know what the course record is if there is one, but yeah, they would absolutely annihilate it. But yeah, I don't think we'd see Georgia Bell out there.
No, I don't think so, especially not this year. But mate, annihilate it. I think Aldershot and a few teams like that would have something to say about that, though, mate.
Possibly, but yeah, I don't think anyone else would stand a chance, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's Mansfield. We're looking forward to it. I hope they don't muck about the course like they did last year. I can't remember what reason it was given. They basically just chopped off that nice dip, that last corner, and then you have that dip going into the finish area. They just chopped that off and cut across. It was weird. It made the sort of crowd atmosphere a bit weird as well. Yeah, didn't like the even though it was a slight change last year, and of course it made the legs a bit shorter as well. So it isn't it's not a terrible thing, but yeah. So hopefully it's back to the OG and original course this year.
Yeah, mate. And are you running on your own anyway on leg one?
Well, I think Bracknell might have a B team, so I'll stomp round. Yeah.
There you go then. Anyone listening, if you see Matt out on the course, give him a shout. Give him some
Yeah.
support, give him some love.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think I mentioned it as well. Podium went 2 weeks on the 9th of November, and believe it or not, 10 years pretty much to the day since Podium first kind of kick-started, and Chris Barnes, had that vision, putting on races, and obviously came to the fore post-COVID. But quite incredible, really. I mean, speaking of Barnsley, not too long ago, and it's like Podium themselves have given out way in excess of £150,000 in prize money, way more. And we actually think about that over the last, and to be fair, you wouldn't even say the last 10 years, more like the last 4 years, really.
Mm.
Has that prize money been really substantial. It used to be just Barnsley, just whatever the race entry total came to, he would just give to the winner or the fastest person on the night. Obviously, things have changed now because £10,000 in cash is up for grabs for the winner. And whether it's going to be winner takes all or spread that out, I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's seriously big, and it's got Hendricks, who ran really well, got bronze in the Euro Cross last year, is doing it. Milner and Ben Connor both entered. Sessman entered as well. I think Callum Elson entered. Might see a few more of those Team Macau guys in there, fresh off their Font camp. So I think it's going to be some. I think Osama Meslik might be doing it. So, but it's interesting, man, because it's obviously road race 2 weeks out from Liverpool. Is that fast, hard 5K on the roads? Is that better than an 8-9K cross at Cardiff, which is going to be on the same
Mm.
day as well?
Yeah, and I think it's also you got to think about the travel. So the guys who are based up that way anyway, is it worth coming all the way down to Cardiff to race a 10K cross, like you say, and really probably take something out of your legs? Like you're probably gonna want to ease down because of the quality of the field. You're not really going to want to train through it unless you really back kind of your mental ability to kind of get thrown in there.
Mm,
And then obviously, yeah. So I think it depends for people, obviously, and the same for podium. Like you're not going to head up to podium particularly if you're based down in Cardiff or down in South of England, for example, um, because you're probably going to want to stay overnight. Um, Ideally, unless you want to do a big day's traveling.
yeah, yeah, and I think it just depends where people are in their season as well, isn't it? I do probably think you're going to recover off a 5K maybe a little bit quicker than you are a really hard 9K cross.
Yeah.
Down Cardiff probably going to be soft and boggy as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who turns out for both, and then obviously who bounces back, gets ready for Liverpool. Hannah Nuttall, by the way, on the women's side is leading entry really. Georgie Grech, who has just been flying, runs 15:30 for fun, whatever the weather, solo. So, with a bit of competition, maybe they'll be in with some of the men. She could be knocking on the door of a sub 15:15. It's definitely a sub 15:20, I would think, the way she's moving. Obviously, coming off a red really as well. Crap, that's a point. Herne Hill for Mansfield. Yeah, overlooked them. But yeah, so yeah, a couple big things coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. I just want to say actually, I listened to a really, really good podcast. It's the real, oh man, I better get it right. Real Science in Sport podcast. I've listened to a couple before, but Hookway sent me this one because it really was focusing on that 209 women's world record. Yeah, the
Mm.
Real Science of Sport podcast by Mike Finch and Ross Tucker. But basically, they really broke down that ladies 209. And if you are interested, and you're interested from a point of they're not just saying she's doping, like they're looking at all the science and all the info of potentially legitimate reasons how she ran 209. One of the big things they said is apparently there's a lot of studies out there around super shoes and how women are respond a lot better than men. So their advantage is greater, and it's all to do with their height, their weight, how the shoes lengthen their stride more so than men. And I found that quite interesting because it's not really an area that I think, I mean, we haven't spoken about before. Haven't really thought about it before. So there was that, and then there was also the difference between, and a lot of it is, on the shoes, but they've actually got the science and stuff, and they've done the research out there to kind of back up these points. Between the Vaporfly and the Alphafly as well, there's about a 3-4% difference, and it comes back to if you wear a shoe that is perfect for you when it comes to super shoes, you could be again chopping off up to about a minute or 90 seconds off your marathon time, which is a huge jump.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's coming from people that have gone and done it rather than what you get. And we do this as well, don't we? Don't we, mate? But also a lot on social media, people just saying, oh, it's the shoes. And they're not really actually giving you any detail on what influence
Mm,
that might have.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely go check that one out if you haven't already. Other news though this week, Grand Slam have kind of announced some new athletes. So I guess their roster, their full roster that they put up on Instagram a couple of days ago now includes quite a few distance running stars. Obviously, we had Josh Kerr, Cole Hocker, Goose in that first round of people that they announced, but like looking now, obviously Nikki Hiltz, Grant Fisher, Ronald Quemoy's on there, A-Rop's on there, Jess Hull, Grijalva. It's starting to look pretty good, isn't it, mate? And I think a few more international athletes. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of them are US based international athletes, but at least we're not just seeing Americans on there.
Yeah. Yeah, mate. I almost think every single athlete on that list is US based. Well, anyway, we can only speak from a distance. The only one who's not US based on this list from a distance angle is probably Quemoy,
Mm.
right? Because, Hocker, Kerr, Grijalva's obviously US based. Who else have we got in there? Obviously, A-Rop, Goose. Um, yeah, literally everyone on that list. I mean, I'm looking at all the sprinters as well, and they're definitely all US based. So, Jess Hull, she's maybe the only one. Obviously, Nikki Hiltz, but yeah, Jess Hull is she sort of she's a bit of both, isn't
She's a
she?
bit of
Sort
both,
of.
isn't she? Yeah.
I don't know if she's actually kind of more Australia and UK actually now. But yeah, but like yeah, everyone does seem to be. So there still seems to be those, and whether those Europeans are being approached, I don't know. And this is what we be interested to see if someone like Keeley is intrigued by this offer,
Mm.
if Georgia Bell is intrigued by this offer. Um, yeah. And then again, there's a few more Africans that the Kwemoy was kind of a big breakthrough, but whether we see the likes of a Kiplima or a Cheptegei look and go, oh yeah, there's a few opportunities I can do the 3 and the 5. So and yeah, we don't know if they're being approached or not. But it is they are being treated well. Flipping hell, they had some big banquet. I'm sure everyone saw it on social media this week. They're heavy media duties, photos, all of that stuff, and
Mm.
it look like they're being looked after. So it will be exciting. I think it is making some big strides forward in getting the fields together at least.
Yeah, it's shaping up, isn't it? And that's all we can ask for and all we can hope for. But I guess maybe they are reaching out to some more European-based athletes, but it's such a big commitment for those based in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, have they not got a lot? I was just thinking again, more athletes coming from like Hobbs Kessler and people like that. How's he not involved in that 8:15 double? But
Guess it
yeah, you're
depends though,
right.
right? Because I think we spoke recently about how athletes on a circuit talk to each other about the sort of contracts and the deals they get. And if Cole Hocker's told Hobbs what he's getting paid, for example, and not ju and I'm not just talking like what Grand Slam announced, like everything, you know.
Mm.
And then they go to him and they say, "This is what's on the table for you, Hobbs." He might just be like, "Nah."
What? You think Hobbs is getting more than Cole Hawker?
No, I'm saying saying what if he gets offered significantly less, he might think, "Well, what's the point?"
Ah, what? I think, yeah, can't be
Because
up.
actually,
Well,
I'll go and just back myself to win a title because I'm
mm,
planning my season a bit more carefully. So
mm,
we just don't know. Obviously, they are announcing like the sort of prize money and that sort of thing. We don't know every single athlete's ins and outs of their Grand Slam deal, you know.
mm. Yeah, yeah, it'd be interesting. Few more names to get into that one. But yeah, you have a good point. Whether there is that disparity there, I'm not sure, but yeah, you'd maybe expect so. But anyway, man, one more thing that I just want to mention: if you are at a British university, and you know you're part of the distance squad there, the UK Academy is going to be in year 2 next year. It's going to be happening Friday, the 20th of June, and I've already started to talking. You're looking at the new athletic director of the UK Academy, by the way, but I've already started talking to a lot of universities about this, getting them involved. It's going to be 5 men, 5 women on the same team. You're going to race over about 100K. It's going to be out and back course from Windsor to Reading. That's not fully confirmed yet, but near enough. And there's a lot of money involved. Talk of Grand Slam. We want to kind of treat you in a similar manner. Have kind of an event briefing the night before, pre kind of event banquet as well, then the race, and obviously an after party as well. And there's a huge opportunity to network for universities with all the corporate teams and sponsors that are going to take part as well. So it's going to be bigger and better than ever. Winning team, £3,000. So if your uni could do with £3,000, second is 2,000, third 1,000 as well. So some serious prize money on offer as well, which can obviously go towards your clubs or take it as individuals, whatever. But yeah, if you're a uni and you're interested and you feel like you have 5 good women and 5 good men, get in touch because we do want it to be quite exclusive. We only got space for 15 of the best unis as well.
Cool. Do you have an email for them, mate, or do you want what do you want people to do?
Easiest way is, I mean, check out the UK Academy website. Definitely have a email address and contact on there, but probably, mate, the easiest way is just to drop me a DM, either on the Sunday podcast or on my personal account, Coach Sedham.
Coach said, and there you go. Direct people there. I don't want to read those messages, so. Right, and then let's get into this week's episode, mate, because you sat down with Andreas Almgren to chat about some of his training.
I did indeed. Yeah, fascinating really because he is a man who fully adopted the double threshold kind of before everyone else. Obviously, being Swedish, being in Scandinavia as well, he caught wind of double threshold quite a while ago. He is a bit of a unique talent. He's a 145 800 man. He was third in the World Juniors in 2014. And I think that was the same World Juniors Carl Lang would go to. I remember. But he got third there, around 145, improved a little bit to sort of 145. So he was a very, very good 8 guy who has now adopted the double threshold and obviously huge to CS 2650, 1250. Got injured right before the Paris Games, but he would have been a guy to feature for sure. He's a sub. So yeah, let's put that 145, sub 13-minute 5K. I think he's a 332, 1500 man, something like that. Sub 27-minute 10K, sub 60-minute half as well. He's around 59:20. But yeah, I think, mate, the whole double threshold, in speaking to him as well, like it obviously is great, but I think it's a very lonely way of training, and you have to be okay with that because he does a lot of unique things. And I won't spoil it too much, but one of the things I found quite interesting is like if he hops on the treadmill in the morning and his lactate's a bit off, he just stops, goes home, doesn't run, and then tries again the next day. Like Yes, you can do that in a group setting a bit, but not really. Like it's very, very specialized and individual. And I feel like to fully adopt it from speaking to him, you kind of have to go all out on your own,
Yeah,
which
I think
isn't for
that's the way,
everyone.
isn't it? With some of this really scientific training, is that unless you're doing it exactly to the T, then
Pointless. Yeah. 100 and he actually says that, he says, when he's coming back and in the early days and stuff, he had to do it properly and it was like it was take initially it's like taking a massive step back because you're running pretty well. You know you can run faster than a 3:10K. Like he was a 13 odd minute 5K runner, but he's like, actually, my lactate's saying I need to, go run some 3:15s, and it's like it takes a while for that adaptation to occur. Yeah, but there's all sorts of, we know the advantages to it, we know how it can work, but I think it's a lot harder to fully commit to than people think, and I think Almgren highlights that.
yeah, absolutely. And like you said, mate, let's hear from the man himself. So, thanks for listening to us. We'll catch you very soon with another exciting guest next week. We've recorded pretty much the whole rest of the season now, mate. So
We
we
have
can,
been organized for
yeah,
once, and we have a backlog.
we do, and we can tell you for sure it's some absolutely stellar guests coming up, but we won't spoil it. So enjoy Andreas today, and we'll catch you very soon, guys.
Okay, Andreas, welcome to the podcast. It's been overdue, I think, and I think a nice place to start would be you're a very unique athlete. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at 16, you were running 22 seconds for 200, 48 seconds for 400. A couple years later, you're running 145 over the 800 10 years ago at the World Juniors, getting bronze there. But since then, you've gone on to run sub 13 minutes, sub 27 minutes, and sub 60 minutes. I mean, I'm not sure there's an athlete who has that range. And when you were running 145 10 years ago, did you think you'd be a sub 27-minute 10,000 meter runner?
No. Short and sweet. I always thought I was a 4 and 800 meter runner. Maybe nudging on the 15 as well, but mainly 800. The even the thought of like 5K and 10K scared me 10 years ago. So yeah, it's gone pretty fast the last couple of years with the transition, but I'm quite happy with my situation now.
It really has. And, we're predominantly a UK podcast and talk to UK guests. But what did athletics look like for you growing up in your early stages, competing over the 4.8 over in Sweden?
Yeah, so I started running with my athletics club like when I was 10 years old or something like that. And then it was all kinds of events like long jump, hurdles, triple jump, and of course running. I also played football up until I was 18 years old. I was actually quite good at football. I was yeah, in one of the best academies in Sweden and some national youth team camps. So like running was my like second sport. I mainly look at myself as a football player. Um, but then I obviously realized I was quite good at running. When I was 16, I was at the World Youth Championships and made the semifinals at the 800. Uh, and somewhere around that, my focus kind of switched a little bit. I thought it was very fun to be at championships. But I continued to play football for like 2 years more, and then I started getting a lot of injuries. So I realized I need to start focusing on just one sport, and then I choose athletics. And yeah, so I quit playing football when I was 18. And then in 1 year, I went from 149 and a half to 145 and a half. So at that point, I felt that I made the right choice.
You did. But those next few years, after the World, I take it that year you went from 149 to 145 was the World Junior year,
Yeah.
and your success there. Were the next few years frustrating because you improved marginally o over the 800, which is, to have gone kind of all in that first year and have that success, you almost would expect that for throughout the next couple of years as well.
Yeah, I think that so my World Junior year, it was in 2014,
Mm,
and the year after that, I think I was quite a lot better, but I didn't really like get the result on the track. I had a stress reaction in the spring, and then in my first race, I ran a PR with a few hundredths of a second, and then I improved over the summer. But when I was supposed to get like my good races,
mm,
I caught a quite a bad cold. Uh, so I ran like 1:45.8 or something with like I think I had 39 degrees of fever and like a real sore throat. And so nothing I recommend, but I was young and stupid. And then it was the world champs. Didn't really get the chance to run fast there. And then after that, I caught another cold. So I think I was like a 1:44 high runner
mm,
that summer. But yeah, after that, I had a lot of problem with injuries, which I've had throughout my career. So uh, in the late fall, winter of 2015, I had a stress reaction in my shin bone. It affected me throughout the winter and spring, and then when the racing started in the summer, I got a stress fracture in a navicular bone
mm,
in the summer of 2016, which meant I had to take half a year off from running with the surgery and all that kind of stuff. So um, the the coming years after that was very frustrating.
mm,
I went back in 2017, didn't run very well, but like since it was my comeback year, I thought that yeah, this will fix itself the coming years. But then in 2018, I had another stress reaction in my femur bone, uh, which affected that summer, and then got another stress reaction in my sacrum, pelvic bone. So um, at that point, we realized that I couldn't really handle like the high intensity training of 800 meter. And
mm.
then we heard about double threshold.
And the rest is history.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. Yeah, you know what? You wouldn't really associate stress fractures with 800-meter training.
No, but it's like you have to find what works for you. For me, like high mileage and like very controlled intensity stuff, I never get injured from that. But
Mm,
as soon as put on spikes and high intensity with high lactate and like the curves of a track, that is instantly like that put a lot of pressure on my body, and I get stress reactions all over because I've always like did a few like a lot of examinations after every injury and done DXAs and check my check my blood and all like levels in my body, and I never have like I have a high bone density. I never have any problems with my blood values and all
mm,
kind of stuff. So like the main reason we find that I get injuries is because of like the high intensity stuff. So
mm.
that's what I have to look out for.
So in many ways, because of the injuries, was it an easy transition for you to turn your focus to longer distances?
I wouldn't say that it was easy, but it had been like a bit frustrating, like with all the injuries and not get the
Mm,
results I wanted during the summer season. So I just thought I should try it. So like I started with this training like in the late part of 2019, and I did it for like 2 or 3 months or something. And then I thought that I should skip the indoor season, but I thought I could run the nationals, like the 3K, just to find out where my shape was. And
mm,
it was my first 3K race ever, and I ran a national record. So I thought that okay, this might be something for me. Because I realized that I responded very well to that training. So when I started, it felt like the obvious choice, but it wasn't like easy to get to that point.
Yeah, you had very a few up and down years. Who made the decision, you or your coach?
Um, I mean, the final decision was me, but we had like discussed it
Mm.
back and forward. And I mean, both of us was a bit frustrated with yes how my summer was. Not like getting back to the level that I wanted in the 800, and so we both thought that just yeah, let's try something new. It's like we had another Swedish runner called Kalle Berglund who
Mm.
um, yeah, who tried it first in Sweden, and he made the World Championships final in Doha in the 1500. So it kind of like helped me get make the decision. Like it worked for him, I might as well try it for
Mm.
myself.
Did you 2019 was quite early to be going on to double threshold because I feel like it got really popular coming out of COVID, 2021 when Yaka was really kind of at his heights in 2019 he was good on the world class stage. He was very good at European stage, but he still wasn't dominating the world class stage like he is now. So did you guys in Sweden, did you pick this up a little bit earlier, the Norwegian training method?
Yeah, I mean we have gone to like the same training camp spots as like the Norwegians since
Mm,
2015, 2014. So we kind of watched how they train, and yeah, picked up like a few clues from them. And I mean, Kalle was like the first one to really like investigate and like find out what they did. Yeah, then we just talked training with him and just kind of find our own way of doing it. It's like we don't, or at least I haven't, don't really know exactly what Ingebrigtsen does.
mm,
I mean, I know basically what they have said in media now. That's the thing we picked up, but I don't know really how they train during racing season, that kind of stuff. But um, the double threshold thing we picked up quite early. So Kalle started doing it in 2018, I think, and
mm,
then got the results in 2019, and I started doing it in 2019, and started to get like real results in 2022.
mm. Yeah, I'm intrigued because obviously coming from the middle distance, the 8 to 15, I'm not sure what sort of volume you would have been on when you were training for those events, but the whole double threshold, did you build that up or did you go straight to the kind of classics of, in that first year you were doing it, 2019, did you go straight to the classics of 2400s and, 6 minute reps in the morning and short reps in the evening? Or did you start out at a very kind of low level double threshold in terms of volume?
Yeah, quite low level, but I quite rapidly built up to like what you believe. But I mean, in the first year, I think I peaked at like 100 miles per week or something. Um,
How much of an increase was that from your mid distance days?
um, I would say that I had increased a little bit during the years before. So, like when I was a 145 runner, I had like a peak of maybe 70 miles per week or something,
Mhm.
75. The year before, like in 2019, I think I had maybe a peak of 185, 190 or something.
Mhm.
So it wasn't that big of a jump. But nowadays, I usually do like maybe 115, sometimes 120 miles per week. So I've continued to build up on that. I think it's quite hard to just, if you're a pure 800-meter runner and then go up to like high mileage double threshold, I think that's too big of a jump.
Mm. But you found yourself being able to absorb all the training and you managed to have an extended period without injuries.
Yeah, it's like up until this year, I
Mm.
had like my last stress reaction or stress fracture in end of summer 2019. Then I had like a few other issues, tore a meniscus and a few other things. But I mainly got rid of the stress reaction and stress fracture part when I transitioned into this kind of training. So I haven't really had those like big, big breaks from running. So I think that's like the main part, that when I do the double threshold thing, yeah, I got rid of the like really high intensity stuff. And I see now that when I get injuries nowadays, it's always like from the transition into track and like racing season. So that's still like the big issue for me, to find like the right intensity balance. Yeah, when we put on spikes and do like harder stuff.
I think this is the tricky part, right? Because we know that double threshold is hugely successful. You cottoned onto that early on, but that transition period, what does that look like for you? I mean, you had a twilight couple of months, early spring into the summer this year, where you were sub 27, sub 13 minutes, and also earlier on, a few weeks prior to that as well, sub 60 minutes, 59:22 in the half marathon. I mean, that is just phenomenal form in sort of a 4 to 8 week period. What did training look like going into that? Were you still very much kind of winter base at that point?
Yeah, I mean, uh, when I did the half marathon, it was basically just pure base training. I did like one or two like prep workouts, just to get the body like used to being able to work for quite a long time. But otherwise, it was just double thresholds, basically. And when I did the 10, I mean, I had like a tough workout 3 weeks before the race, but then the last 2 weeks, it was just like double thresholds or thresholds going into like a little bit higher lactate. So a lot of like the 25 times 400, but then like maybe the last 6 or 7, I pushed it a little bit. But otherwise, it was just pure base work. Um, then when we went into like the real summer season, when I started running the 5K, the plan was to prep a little more, but then I had like a small niggle in my foot. So I did like 2 workouts, but after that we uh, paused a little bit with that and just thought that, yeah, maybe the first races won't be that good, but just build the shape by racing.
Mm.
And I think that's the problem, because I don't think that I was completely like used to like the race pace and race intensity. So I think the races put too much pressure on my body. I mean, when I ran my first sub 13 race, I had like extremely sore calves after that race.
Mm.
And I mean, you should have built into that during training. So you should feel fatigued after a race, but you shouldn't feel like that aching. And I think I started building into like my stress fracture around that part, because I wasn't used to the intensity and the, yeah, especially doing that pace for 12 and a half laps. So that's the thing. I ran both that race and then the 1250 in Oslo, doing mostly base training. I think I had maybe 4 kilometers of spikes the month leading up to the 12:59 race.
Wow.
And then I did like 3:35 in Doha and then the 12:59. So I think, yeah, I need to do a longer transition going into the race. So I'm used to it.
Mm. I mean, you say that. I was going to ask, do you almost need to transition? The fact you had such success off of, base training and you were able to run these times, do you need much
Yeah,
of a
I
transition? I know
mean,
from an
like,
injury standpoint.
yeah, like performance wise, I don't think I need much of transition, but it's just for my body to handle the races. Because, well, I had a very sore like tibialis posterior after like my 12:59 race. And the thing that ruined my summer was a stress fracture right at the point where the muscle attaches to the bone. So I think like they started pulling and affecting it somewhere around that point.
Mm.
And so I just need to do like some kind of transition period to get used to the track races. But like for like in a pure performance point of view, I don't really need much of a transition.
Mm. And then just finally, when it comes to, on the sort of training and the transition, when it comes to the speed work, do you feel like you have to touch on that much because of your 800 pedigree?
Yeah, I'm not a 145 runner anymore. Uh, I am not as fast as I was when I was younger. So I need to do some type of speed work, at least before the championships.
Mm.
If you're going to Diamond League race and it's just pure like running like 61, 62 laps, you don't really need that much of speed work. But if you want to be competitive in a world championship or Olympics, you need to be able to close in like 53 seconds or something like that. And then you
Yeah.
need some type of speed. I don't think that you need to be like faster than like 50 flat in a flying 400 if you're
Mm.
strong enough, but you need to at least get to that point.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Is it weird? Is it weird going into races not knowing your shape? Like you said, coming into races off base phase. I mean, how do you mentally sort of just get your head around that and trust that you can maintain, I'm sure the pacemaking profiles came in before these races and you would have seen 62s, 61s for 5,000 and thought, geez, like, can I actually go with that?
Yeah, when I ran 12:59, I didn't really know what I expected. But then it was just like we have the Olympic standard of 13:05. So I just thought that I might as well just go for it. Uh, for me, it didn't really matter if I was like 10th or first in that race. I just wanted to break that. But I've also like I um, I have my like training log, so I've saved every workout or training I've done since with quite a lot of details since 2017. So I can quite easily compare workouts that are done like before. So when I went into Oslo Diamond League, I did like a prep workout before that, and then I realized that like I should probably be able to run around 12:50. So then I just went with it, and then I ran 12:50, 90 something.
Mm.
So um, yeah, I like data. I up until this fall worked part-time as a data analyst for a sport tech company, and I soon uh, or soon quite soon I have like a master's degree in applied mathematics. So I like numbers.
No, you did. That is something I've heard about you. Definitely, and it's interesting about that training log, and just picking out points. I mean, is there anything you look back on this year? You spoke about the injury, but how are you going to increase things next year, or will you look to increase or just maintain?
um, yeah, there's some things I'm gonna switch around. First of all, I stopped working and I took a pause with my school, so I don't have to have too much stress outside of running. I mean, I had quite an intense week this year when I ran. On the Sunday, I ran 7:34 in Stockholm Diamond League at the 3K. On Thursday, I ran 12:50 at 5K
Mm.
in Oslo, and on Tuesday, I had a 5-hour finals in applied nonlinear optimization. So it was quite a stressful stressful weeks leading up to that.
Yeah.
And it was like after that week, I started to get my first like injury sensations.
Mm.
So now I want to have a year when I don't have anything to look back on and think that shit, that was stupid. Uh, but
You're even more unique than I thought then. So not only are you sub 27, sub 13, you're so incredibly smart.
Yeah, I wish. Uh, Decently intelligent,
Yeah.
but not
I mean,
always.
I was going to ask because it's I don't know if you were working for this company, but you had been linked to is it Sfexa?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like I guess for listeners, it's very similar to Whoop. Is it and in sort of data tracking? I mean, how does it differ, and how did you use it in your kind of preparations and work with it?
I've never used Whoop, so I don't really know exactly how it works. But I mean, Spexa was kind of like um, getting all kind of data streams, everything from your like training, or you can complete surveys and that kind of stuff, and then you can both get kind of like a readiness thing of uh, yeah, how well prepared you are for training, but most importantly, you can like pick a date where you want to perform, choose what distance you want to run, and then you can get like a training program through AI uh, leading up to that. And it automatically changes depending on how you perform your workouts leading up to that and how you when you complete the survey. So it's adaptive.
Yeah.
And you looking through your like training data, you also get like a performance calculator. We have a performance calculator, so you can see like what you probably can run right now. And like if you compare it with, for example, Garmin, when I ran my half marathon, I think Garmin said that I was able to run 65 or something, but our performance calculator said 59:31 for me, and I ran 59:23, so it was a little bit better. Um, yeah, so you can get all kind of like data insights from that as well. Um, so I
Wow.
was in there and like yeah, analyst and like a little bit of a software developer, like developing the algorithms for it.
Wow. I dread to think how it works, the the ins and outs of it.
Yeah. Uh,
Very.
yeah, it's trade secrets.
It makes sense. Look, when you got injured this year, that was obviously a very tough time. But one of the things I want to talk about is obviously mentally you had to get over the fact you were injured, and then you started a very rigorous cross training. It was it this year or the previous years you've done some very, very rigorous cross training to the point of like almost professional cycling-esque.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like last year, I also had some problems with like the joint between my toes and foot that ended my summer season. And I wasn't very motivated for cross training that year. But I know a guy called Matthias Reck, who's a trainer in the Lidl Trek cycling team. So I contacted him, and he gave me a training program. So I did a lot of uh, like both cycling outdoors and Swift training, and I thought like a nice goal for me was to try to climb up the Swift as fast as I could. Um, and for like listeners who knows a bit of cycling, it's kind of a replica of Alpe d'Huez, like a classic Tour de France climb.
Mm.
Yeah, so I trained for like 6 weeks, uh, like a cyclist up until for that, and yeah, I was quite happy with my results. I did it in 38 minutes something, averaged like 352 watts or
Mhm.
something. So I think it was like 5.4 watts per kilo or something for 38 minutes. So it's decent for an amateur.
Yeah,
uh,
very, very. And is it right in that sort of I mean, how did that training look? I mean, I've read things, sort of cycling in excess of sort of 300-400 miles per week.
yeah, they had kind of like a 4-day cycle. So 2 days of some kind of workout, either like 3 minutes or 40-20 or something like that. Uh, and then a few hours after. So one of the workout days could be like 4 or 5 hours of cycling. And then the third day was always like a long ride. So like 5 hours or something. and then the fourth day was an easy day or an off day, and then we started over. And so I did that up until the climb. This year it was more like I just want to go out on pure long rides. Wasn't I was a bit um, yeah, sad obviously after the Olympics that I missed it out. So, but I thought that those long rides motivated me a bit. So I went out for like 6 or 7 hours uh, for the rides and did that like every weekday, and then I took the weekends off to have some fun.
It makes sense. Did your body type change at all during these quite intense cycling stints? Did you notice any changes in your body type?
Yeah, obviously you use your quads a little bit more, but I think after like 1 or 2 months or something, you're back to normal. I think you need to do the cycling for quite a long time to like really change your body.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I stopped cycling now like 1 month ago, or maybe 5 weeks ago, or something like that, and uh, I think I lost like 1.5, 2 kilos after that, and that's yeah,
From,
just
from
going
from
back.
you lost the kilos from getting off the bike, not whilst you were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I see. And on the cycling, can we learn anything? Was there any crossovers that you've learned and started to implement in your own training?
No, not really. It's just I know that when I'm injured and when I'm injured, I can do cycling as a fun type of cross training, and I know I get back into shape quite soon.
Mm,
But I don't think that I can really use anything from cycling in my normal type of training. I think that if you want to become a good runner, you should run as much as you can. But like lesson from last year's was like I think like the last or second to last week of November was my first full mileage training week after the injury. And then like in middle first part of January, I ran 27:20 for the 10K road. Um, so I have maybe like 7 weeks of full training and a cold somewhere
mm,
in the middle of that. And I was still in quite good shape.
mm.
So I think that if you just do your cross training well, you will get back into shape quite fast.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the threshold work. I mean,
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to talk to you about is altitude, and where you train and how you go about doing it. Because am I right in thinking you're one of the few people who seem to you like to go to lower altitudes to easy run and keep your intensity at higher altitudes?
No, not really. It's like when I'm in Sierra Nevada, there are not really any good places to run up at like where you stay. So you have to go
Right.
down
Yeah.
to like you stay at 2,300 meters, but you have to go down to like 1,700 to get like a decent place to run. So that's the only reason why we go down.
Ah, makes sense. I didn't know if
Yeah,
that was, yeah, tactical
yeah.
or not. So
And
dream
if
dream
I,
scenario, you're doing everything at high altitude.
yeah, like during the spring, we're usually in Flagstaff, and then we do like everything up on altitude, unless we want to do like a important or really like a tougher workout. Then we go down to lower level.
Mm,
So it's usually the classic thing, just that in Sierra Nevada, you have to either run around the track or on a treadmill for your easy runs if you don't want to, yeah, run purely downhill and then uphill.
mm. I think that brings me to like the mentality and the mindset of the double threshold training philosophy, and you talk about then, running on a treadmill a lot. There's definitely something you do and round tracks, and it's all very controlled, very measured. Um, does it get boring? It's awfully repetitive as well. I mean, how much do your weeks vary? Do is it Tuesday? Is it the same kind of double workouts as the previous week and so on? Does it get boring at
Yeah,
all?
it's a bit boring, but I kind of like it. There's some kind of uh, like beauty of it, I think. Because
Mm,
as I said, like I like numbers, so I think it's nice to like that you can compare it over the weeks and see how you improve. And it's also like if you do the same workouts, you know how your body is supposed to feel. So if something's off, you can quite fast. Yeah, it's quite quickly to pick it up. For instance, I noticed that if I run like my normal pace, but I feel quite bad, the pulse is very low, but my lactate is still pretty high. That's usually a sign that I'm fatigued and I need more rest.
Mm.
And it's very easy to pick that up on a treadmill when everything is standardized. So if I get those signals, I just push the stop button, take the rest of the day off, and usually like a recover day the day after, and then I'm back back in my normal rhythm. Um, so if I do the same type of workouts, yeah, it's easy to pick up on those signals. Um,
Yeah, that's incredible. I haven't heard many elites who would be, start a run and just go, I'm tired today. I'm not going to do it.
no,
That's
yeah.
it's quite a brave decision, but obviously a very sensible one as well. It's what's encouraged by coaches, but it's harder to execute.
Exactly. But for me, it's like when you get those like real big signals, sometimes my pulse can be like 10 beats lower, uh, but I can still have too high lactates. And then I take one day off, take the rest of the day off, one
Mm,
easy day, and then go back into double threshold. And I can like, yeah, have the same pace again. My pulse has increased with 10 beats, but I still have like half of the lactates.
mm,
So it's like, and I feel better. Uh, but the thing is that all runners don't have like the same type of signals. For someone, like if you can't increase your lactate, that's a sign that you're fatigued or
mm.
something like that. So you have to find out what's your type of signal.
Yeah, and I guess you just found out over the years experimenting, just learning.
Yeah, if you've done like 6 minute intervals since 2019, 2 times per week, you found out what's your
So
signal is.
I'll ask you, is there a progress? How long does it take to progress? Let's say, now you're starting out, you're getting running again, for the winter program, and you're doing your 6 minute intervals. What, by the time January comes around, will your times be a lot faster at the same lactate? How
Yeah,
long does the changes take to kind of occur?
I mean, it's very, I say it's quite easy to get back at the level that you've been on in before. I mean, it's harder to improve when
Okay.
you're at your peak. So when I started running now, I was like 3 kilometers per hour slower than during the summer. Um, because in the summer, obviously, I was yeah in peak shape.
Mm,
But now in like 2.5 weeks of threshold running, I like halved that gap. So now it's like 1.5 kilometers away from that. So it's when you get back into running, it's you increase your level very fast back to your normal level. But then when I'm back at peak level, it's very like marginal gains.
right.
Um, so then you can stay at the same level for a couple of weeks or months, and then like just gradually improve. But sometimes for me, it's just there's some kind of switch, and then suddenly I'm just at a completely new level.
Mm.
And those days are quite fun. Uh,
Yeah, I can imagine. It's an awful lot of patience that's required to carry out this training, and I think a lot of people might not have the patience to really do it
exactly.
because you have to be
I
on the
think
run.
I think it was in 2023. I did like 1K repeats, and I was somewhere around 252 high or 254 for like almost the whole spring. And then suddenly one week I just suddenly averaged 249. Just like from one week to another, and then suddenly that was my new level. So
Wow.
it's quite fun when that switch happens.
Wow. Yeah, that's That is cool, and I guess yeah, it's
Uh,
different for everyone
yeah.
as well. So I mean, one thing I wanted to talk to you about before we finish up is Swedish athletics, and obviously you were selected for the Olympics. Unfortunately, couldn't go, but they were in the media quite a lot. I mean, British athletics have a very similar system. They weren't taking athletes who were qualified. What's the kind of state of Swedish athletics? Was there any reason for that? What reason did they give for that?
It's like the Swedish Olympic Committee um, has the statement that you should be able to be a top 12 contender. Um, and I think that's well, it's easy to say, but it's not very easy to
Mm,
like say what is a top 12 athlete. So it's basically um, if you got like the international standard, then you got a spot. Um, but then if you qualified through rankings, it wasn't completely sure that you would be selected.
mm,
So they had like another nomination criteria, I think, that if you got sub below or you broke this criteria, then you could be nominated for the Olympic Committee, and then they took the decision if you could go or not. And if you didn't break that, got that criteria, they also had like a nomination span or something. So it's like if you make a result between like in this interval, like if you do that a couple of times, then you might get a spot. And those uh, intervals and nomination criteria, they should are like based on what's been required to get. I think it's like between 10th and 14th the last couple of international championships. So yeah, it's just very messy.
a
And
very, very, very long-winded way,
yeah,
similar to what we have.
exactly. And like the final decision on who gets a spot or not is from the Swedish Olympic Committee from yeah, some people that might not have the best like athletics knowledge.
Mm,
They should be like the head of all the Olympic sports.
for
And
sure.
yeah,
Is when the World Champs comes around next year, will that will just be Swedish athletics? That will be a different governing body, and
yeah,
it shouldn't be so messy.
yeah.
Right.
It's usually around the Olympics that
It
there
gets
are a lot of people that doesn't get selected. For the World Champs, it's normally like everyone gets selected. Not everyone, but most of them.
mm,
Um, but for example, like we had four steeplechasers that were qualified for Olympics, and none of them were selected. And one of them, for instance, beat Rooks the Spring, who got the silver medal. So yeah, they
mm,
were quite pissed. Especially, yeah, one of the runners after the Olympics, he ran 8:13.
mm.
I think it was like the second fastest in Europe this year, and wasn't selected. So yeah, there are some issues around there.
Are your just out of interest? Are your steeplechasers following a similar method of double threshold? Is the kind of the whole of Sweden adopting that method, or is there still some unique methods out there in traditional training?
I think most of the Swedish runner use the double threshold in some kind of way.
Mm,
Not like the pure Norwegian style, but I think basically everyone has incorporated double threshold in some kind of way.
mm. Interesting. And then finally, European athletics have adjusted those cross-country distances. I'm not sure if you're aware, they've shortened the Eurocross. Are you do you plan on doing the Eurocross? Are we going to see you in December?
Yeah, unless I get a setback or I'm not
Mm,
feeling that I'm in the shape I want. But I plan to run the Eurocross. Um, I think I would have preferred a longer distance
yeah.
because I'm just gonna do pure base training. So I think the longer the better for me. But yeah, the fun thing about cross country racing is that the times and those kind of things, it doesn't matter. It's just
Mm.
pure racing, and I kind of like that. So if it's 7.5 or 10K, it's like, yeah, just racing is quite fun.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. That's a nice place to end, and hopefully we'll see you in December.
Thank you very much. See you.